So tell me about some of the ups and downs that you experienced while running Bridgewater. I'm sure it wasn't all smooth sailing the whole time.
No, that's the beauty of it. You see, life is a journey, right? And if you're not pushing the limits, you're not going to be at your best. So it's like learning to ski or do something, you're going to fall. And that's part of the process. So let's see, I think that I'll tell you about one that changed my life. So I formed the company 1975, and then 1980, I calculated that American banks had lent far more money to foreign countries than those countries were going to be able to be paid back. And that was going to cause a debt crisis, a very controversial point of view. And then in August of 1982, Mexico defaulted on its debts, and a number of other countries defaulted on its debts and started to produce a crisis. And I thought things were going to get much worse. I thought like you could have a depression, terrible debt crisis. And I couldn't have been more wrong. August 1982, when Mexico defaulted, that was the exact bottom in the stock market. And so I lost money for me and I lost money for clients. I was so broke that I had to borrow $4,000 from my dad to help to take care of family expenses. And that was very, very painful. But it was one of the best things that ever happened in my life, because it gave me the humility I needed to balance with my audacity. In other words, I start to think, how do I know I'm right? And what do I do to handle that? And then that approach started to change, because I was in a dilemma. I knew that more risk meant more opportunity. And I wanted to have the best life possible. I wanted to be as great as possible in terms of all this. And then risk constrained me. And so it was like sitting on one side of a jungle and knowing that if I go into the jungle and cross the jungle, I could be successful. But I have to get across this jungle. How do I deal with risk? And I knew that I didn't want to have an ordinary life, so I had to solve that puzzle. And it changed my approach. So for example, it made me radically open-minded, right? Okay, asking myself, how do I know that I'm right? Gave me an open-mindedness. I wanted to find the smartest people I could who would disagree with me, to understand their thinking, to stress test me. I learned that diversification could allow me to reduce risk without reducing return. I learned pain plus reflection equals progress. There's a big thing, that when you have pain and you then reflect, you learn more about how reality works, and you learn how to approach it better. So my modus operandi began to change. I began to look at problems like puzzles. And if I could solve the puzzle, I would get a gem. And the puzzle is, what would I do differently in the future? And the gem I would get is a principle of what I would do differently in the future to make a better outcome. And so my reactions to the pain and the failing began to change, all for that experience, because of that experience.